Labas vakaras. Vėl labai smagu matyti jūs susirinkusius čia, teatro raudonojoje foje. Ir šis vakaras yra skirtas gilesniam muzikos pažinimui, artėjančios premjeros, operos Hofmano istorijos. Vakar turėjom irgi labai įdomų pokalbį su operos režisieriumi, choreografu, taip pat psichoterapeute. Panarstėme šiek tiek plačiau režisūrinius artėjančios premjeros užmojus. Na, o šį vakarą atsiduosime muzikai ir jau tradiciją praktiškai yra susitikti su premjeros muzikos vadovu, maestro Sesto Quatrini, kuris yra šalia manęs, galim jam dar šiek tiek paploti, kuris šiandien mus supažindins su Hofmano istorijų muzika. Na ir girdėsime ir muzikos šį vakarą įvairiausiais muzikiniais pavyzdžiais iš operos. Šį pokalbį iliustruos pianistas Artur Shutov. Aš savo ruožtu pabandysiu viską išversti kuo tiksliau, kuo taikliau. Na, o dabar jau sutikiu žodį Sesto Quatrini. Sesto, please.
Ačiū. Labas vakaras, everyone. So, I'm happy to be here to do this speech, about this small conversation between me and you about, not very small, but this conversation about this opera, which I really love so much. And I'm very happy to arrive at the end of my experience here as a conductor and my musical and life experience here in Lithuania, exactly with this opera, which is absolutely a challenge because it's a very difficult opera to conduct. It's a very difficult opera to prepare. It's a very difficult opera to sing. And it's not that difficult to enjoy from your side. I would like to start with a little introduction about how in the past operas were created, because it's important to get inside Le Conte of Man. So if you want to start, and then I start.
Okay. Taigi, maestro sako, kad nepaprastai mėgsta šią operą ir jam yra labai smagu, kad jo patirtis čia Lietuvoje baigėsi, ji yra reziumuojama būtent šiuo kūriniu, kuris yra labai sudėtingas diriguoti, sudėtingas atlikti, sudėtingas dainuoti, bet, kaip jis sako, nėra sudėtinga šiuo kūriniu pasimėgauti publikai. Tai jis pradėti norėtų nuo to, kaip operos buvo kūriamos. Jis, kaip ir parodė, nori pažvelgti giliau į šias didžiulės partitūras ir papasakoti, o kaip gimė Hofmano istorijos, nes istorija iš tikrųjų nėra labai paprasta.
So, a composer was loving a novel, a piece of theater, drama theater, a particular moment of the history of the human being, and he was deciding to transform this story in an opera. So the job usually is, the first job in an opera creation is the job of a librettist. So the guy, the person who takes a story, a novel, and transform this novel in a poetical libretto, which is the libretto that we listen to when we go to the opera. So in the words, in a poetical way. So this libretto was arriving to the table of the composer, and the composer was finally free to create music in order of, on those words. So Puccini received Si mi chiamano Mimì, and in his mind, Eureka, Si mi chiamano Mimì, ma il perché non so, eccetera. During the creation of an opera, the composer was working in his studio, in his apartment, in his house. He was composing with the piano. And after, let's say, in the case of Rossini, after 2 weeks. In the case of Donizetti, after 2 weeks. In the case of Bellini, after 1 month. In the case of Verdi, after 1 year. This opera was becoming, for real, an opera complete. But how complete? Piano, vocal score. So the one that our maestro Artur Shutov has on his piano. So, an opera complete in every part, but with piano and voice. After that job, the composer was sending this score, this vocal score, to the theater who was commissioning this job, or to the producer. And they were saying, okay, we like this job, let us listen in something of what you created, and then, okay, you can start the orchestration. So the composer was coming back in his studio, he was orchestrating the piano score. So what was only in the piano was becoming for strings, for horns, for oboe, for harp, for percussion, and whatever. To give to us all the colors that he had in his mind. When the opera was complete, this opera was going finally to the theater to be performed. And a very long process of rehearsal was starting. Usually in that situation, the composer was present, and usually every composer were composing the overture during the rehearsal with the materials of the music that they already created. So the opera was still not complete, and the composer was going around the theater, rehearsing with the singers, understanding if one aria was too high, if, according with the stage director, there was a part that was not dramaturgically working. And so they start to do the job of tailors of music, so cutting, recreating, remodulating the harmony, changing the harmony, the orchestration, composing new music, pantomime, overture, intermezzi, preludi, postludi, whatever. After that period, there was the premiere. And the opera probably was complete, but not totally. If you imagine that Madama Butterfly, for example, received by the same Puccini 7 different versions, where he changed, because probably an opera was really never complete. But we can say that in the 20th century, starting from the 20th century, opera became really a form of art complete only the day after the premiere. This is one of the part of the introduction. Then I continue with Hofman.
Taigi, Sesto papasakojo trumpai, kaip iš tikrųjų atrodo operos gimimas. Viskas prasideda nuo istorijos, nuo literatūros kūrinio, nuo teatro, kuriam muziką nori parašyti kompozitorius. Ir iš tikrųjų, pirmasis prie darbo sėda libreto autorius. Jisai tą istoriją, tą kūrinį paverčia poetinę kalbą. Ir libretas tuomet nukeliauja pas kompozitorių ir jis jau tuomet yra laisvas rašyti muziką. Na ir maestro pailiustravo Sijumi Kiemamo Mimi, ar ne, ir štai Pučinis išgirsta, kaip galėtų šios eilutės suskambėti. Na ir tada kompozitorius, priklausomai nuo to, kaip greitai dirba Rosinis, tarkim, po 2 savaičių, Verdis galbūt po 1 metų, užbaigdavo vieną šio darbo periodą, po kurio gimdavo operos klavyras. Tai yra versija balsui su fortepijonu. Ta versija, kurią galima išgirsti, tarkim, šio vakaro pianistui skambinant. Tuomet ši versija balsui su instrumentu, ji keliaudavo į teatrą, kuris galbūt šį kūrinį užsakė, ar pas prodiuserį, kurie peržiūrėdavo ir jeigu duodavo žalę šviesą, sakydavo taip, mes norime šito kūrinio, tada šis kūrinys sugrįždavo pas kompozitorių į studiją ir tuomet jis jau pradėdavo orkestruoti šį kūrinį. Kūrinys suskambėdavo jau ne tik balsui su fortepijonu, bet rašytos partijos styginiams, pučiamiesiems ir kitiems instrumentams. Būdavo formuojamos visos kūrinio spalvos. Na ir galiausiai užbaigtas kūrinys atkeliaudavo į teatrą ir prasidėdavo tos ilgos repeticijų valandos, kuriuose dažniausiai būdavo ir pats kompozitorius. Ir labai dažnai, kas yra įdomu, ką paminėjo maestro, kompozitorius uvertiūrą, pavyzdžiui, parašydavo jau repeticijų metu iš jau egzistuojančios operos muzikos, iš arijų ir kitų muzikinių fragmentų. Taigi tai iš tikrųjų būdavo labai gyvas procesas, kartais, na, tarkim, režisierius pasakydavo, kad kažkas netinka, arba kažkuri arija galbūt parašyta per aukštome ar per žemame registre, tai kompozitorius visą tai keisdavo, na, kaip Sesto Quatrini sako, tai toks tam tikras sukirpimo operos siuvėjo darbas vykdavo, kai iš tikrųjų ta opera keisdavosi. Ir iš tikrųjų labai dažnai tas galutinis variantas atsirasdavo jau tik premjerinį vakarą ir nebereikalo ten ir Madame Butterfly daugybė versijų egzistuoja ir kitų operų, nes iš tikrųjų galutinė versija dažniausiai atsirasdavo tik premjerinį vakarą ir tai yra pirmoji įžangos dalis. Now it's the second part of the introduction.
She's great, huh? She's great. Absolutely. I'm overwhelmed. Okay. Anyway, so why I told you this? Because you have to know that Jacques Offenbach in 1851 went to the Théâtre de l'Odéon de Paris when there was this theatrical piece, Le Comte of Man, composed by Jules Barbier and Michel Carré, and he was falling in love with this piece. And he said, okay, I want to create an opera on that. He started to think about, because he was already very famous, he already composed La Péricole, La Vie Parisienne, Orphée aux Enfers, Cancan, no? The Cancan music. He composed already La Grande Duchesse de Gerolstein, which is a very important operetta. He was famous for le Théâtre de Boeuf in Paris, le Théâtre de Boeuf du Nord, le Théâtre de la Porte Saint-Martin, le Théâtre de l'Athénée, le Théâtre de la Porte Saint-Martin, je l'ai dit, des variétés, le Théâtre des variétés. So there were a lot of theaters in Paris who were doing this operetta. And Offenbach was super famous. But he was suffering a lot, the fact that he was famous only for the operetta and not for the opera seria. He found this piece, this theatrical piece of Le Comte of Man very interesting. And he decided, okay, maybe I can be famous and recognized forever as a serious composer, like Bizet, like Verdi, like Wagner. So he decided to compose this. He proposed this idea to some theaters, and finally a theater was Théâtre de l'Opéra Comique, decided to produce this opera. Of course, he was not very happy because l'Opéra Comique is a theater where still now the dialogues are not recitativi, but are dialogues, spoken dialogues. And this is very opera comica. So for him was a big contrast inside himself because he wanted really compose an opera musicated totally from the very beginning till the end with music. Like it is now, the one that we do here in Vilnius in a few days. Anyway, he started to compose, and on the 5th of October 1880, he died. And the opera was almost complete, but only the piano score. So the reason why I'm telling you the process of creation of an opera is because this opera was never orchestrated by Jacques Offenbach. So what we know now is not orchestrated by him. It's just not just, but it's something, but the vocal score, the piano vocal score, you have to consider that the premiere was on the 10th of February, 1881. So 6 months later, he died. Point.
Okay. Antroji įžangos dalis. Tai 1851 metais Jacques Offenbachas nuėjo į Odeono teatrą Paryžiuje ir pamatė, išgirdo Hofmano istorijas ir susižavėjo šio kūriniu. Ir iki tol jis jau buvo nepaprastai žymus Paryžiuje savo operetėmis, savo komiškais kūriniais, kuriuos statė bene visi Paryžiaus teatrai ir iš tikrųjų jis buvo nepaprastai žymus, bet kaip dažnai būna, kompozitoriui nelabai patiko, kad jis yra įžymus būtent dėl savo komiškųjų kūrinių. Jisai norėjo lygiai taip pat kaip Verdis, kaip Wagneris, kaip Bizet išgarsėti savo operą seriją. Ir dėl to jis pagalvojo, kad būtent Hofmano istorijas parašius, galbūt jam pasisektų išgarsėti kaip rimtam operos kompozitoriui. Na ir jis šį pasiūlymą parašyti operą seriją keliems teatrams pasiūlė, kol galiausiai Paryžiaus opera komik sutiko šio kūrinio imtis, bet svarbu pasakyti, kad opera komik iki pat šių dienų stato kūrinius ne su recitatyvais, bet su kalbamaisiais dialogais. Ir Offenbachui tas iš tikrųjų nepatiko, viduje jis jautė tam tikrą priešiškumą, nes jis norėjo parašyti tokią operą nuo pradžios iki galo, tikrą rimtą operą, kokią mes išgirsim po kelių dienų čia. Bet kaip Sesto Quatrinis sako, nebereikalo jo įžangos pirmoji dalis pasakojo apie visą operos gimimą, kadangi 1880 metų spalio 5 dieną Jacques Offenbachas miršta, palikęs tik operos klavyrą. Taigi kūrinys Hofmano istorijos, kuriuo mes klausomės, jis niekuomet nebuvo paties Offenbacho orkestruotas. Jis mirė to nespėjęs padaryti, o operos premjera įvyko praėjus praktiškai pusmečiui po Hofmano mirties 1881 metų vasarį. And then we continue.
So, Offenbach dies. The opera he gave to the opera comique to Camille Duloc, who is a very important person for our world because he's the same librettist of Don Carlos in the French version, Verdi Don Carlos. Those times he was the artistic director of the l'Opéra Comique de Paris. So they decided anyway to bring this opera to the stage finally, but the composer was died and the opera was only the piano score. There was only one piece orchestrated by Offenbach, which is La Chanson de Kleinsack, which is the aria in the first act of Hoffmann. And the rest, for example, there were no entr'acte, there were no preludi, there were no recitativi, because the recitativi were spoken language. So everything you will listen to is not original. Offenbach. Somebody else did. Who is this somebody else? This somebody else is Ernst Guiraud, the same composer who composed Bizet Carmen when Bizet died. So the version we have, this Ernst Guiraud was quite lucky because all the composers were dying and he is very famous. No, it's a joke, but anyway, he did all the recitativi version of Bizet Carmen. Also for Bizet Carmen, we have a lot of different versions. It's very difficult to understand what is true, what is fake, what is false, what is maybe the idea of a composer but restored by somebody else. So here, there is a paleological job, archaeological, musicological job that starts. And who has to do this job? The conductor for sure. To understand the font, the source of the score, because this is a job. But anyway, they did the premiere, orchestrated by this Ernst Guiraud, but Carvalho, who was this Portuguese artistic director in that moment of the premiere, decided to cut the act of Giulietta. So, Artur, can you, now she translates on the act of Giulietta, but can you play the barcarolle of the beginning of the act of Giulietta? This music was totally cut at the premiere. There was one atto, which is the fourth act, which is called Giulietta. Now I explain you why, which was totally cut at the very first premiere. And the music is this one. Wait, now she translates. Sorry, I have to do the conductor also here.
Puiku. Taigi, Jacques Offenbachas miršta nebaigęs kūrinio. Ir kasgi nėra parašytų rečitatyvų, yra tik tais kalbamieji rečitatyvai, na ir tiems rečitatyvams nėra antraktų, nėra preliudų, nėra labai daug dalių. Ir kasgi užbaigia šiuos rečitatyvus, kas jiems parašo muziką, ogi toks Ernstas Gyrų, kuris be kita ko prisilietė ir prie Bizet Carmen, šiam irgi mirus. Taigi, kaip sako Sesto Quatrini, yra toks paleologinis, archeologinis, muzikologinis darbas išsiaiškinti, kur, kas, kaip yra šaltinis. Ir pasak jo, Karvanjo pageidavimu, kuris tuo metu buvo opera komik vadovas, meno vadovas, buvo visiškai, jo pageidavimu premjeroje buvo visiškai ištrinta Džiuljetos dalis, kurią dabar Artur Shutov mums ir pakros.
Eccetera, eccetera. Give an applause to Artur, please. So, this music is eternal, is immortal. Everybody knows. And this music, in the original idea, concept of Offenbach and Jules Barbier and Carré, was the idea of reproducing the movement of the gondola in Venezia, because the atto, this fourth act, original is based in Venezia. And this is the movement of the gondola in Venezia. So very poetic. Anyway, premiere cut. Why? Because the opera in its original form, in the mind of Offenbach, was even more than 4 hours, 20 minutes of music. It means with the interval, pause and whatever, chocoladas in the red foyer, 6 hours, 30 minutes of night, which is basically impossible. So they decided to cut this act. Not only this, they decided to transform the role of La Muse, which is a role present in the first and fifth act, in a spoken role. So it's supposed to be a mezzo-soprano, but in the premiere was just spoken. All the recitativi were spoken. Just in 1907, with the edition show dance, the same who did Carmen also, and a lot of French operas are edition show dance, they replaced the atto of Giulietta. Why? Because this music suddenly, we don't know very well how, became very famous in France. And so they decided to restore this atto, but not in the fourth position. So first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, but in the third position. To move Antonia atto, which is the third, to the fourth, thinking that Antonia was the climax of the dramaturgy. Which in one way it is, but dramaturgically absolutely not. Is absolutely Giulietta the atto where Hofmann himself changes his approach to love. Not anymore as a stupid person or in love with silly things like the doll, but in love with the real courtesan and with the pleasure for physical love. Let's make sex here and then buy. I can control myself. They change all of these things. Then, during the years, a lot of people create new music. Everybody felt suddenly responsible to discover a new piece of Offenbach, like an Offenbach Renaissance, until 1977, when Franz Oeser created a new critic edition, but still with the septuor, with the settimino in the fourth act, which doesn't exist. It's a settimino, septuor, totally invented by probably the intendant of the Opera de Monte Carlo, because they needed their septuor, I don't know why. Now there is just a simple pantomima, you will hear the original music. And now, during these days, in the last 20 years, this paleological, archaeological, and musicological job brought to the edition that we are using here, which is edition Scott, made by Keck and Kay. So probably there will be new editions in the future. So all of this I just said is to arrive to tell you that probably in the next 20 years, 30, 40, 50, 100, 1,000, I don't know, there will be new editions of the job, because probably they will discover something new, or maybe because the instrument in the end of the musicology will be much more precise in order to really detect what is original, what is not. And maybe also our attitude as audience will be much more picky in order to say, no, I don't want to come to listen something fake or false. I want absolutely come to listen only what Offenbach composed. But it's important to know that if you want to listen only what Offenbach composed, you have to listen the opera at the piano, without the orchestra. And this is not, this is important that the audience knows, that people know this, because the orchestration is a big part in the color of an opera. Imagine Se mi chiamano Mimì orchestrated with trombones instead than strings. It's not that delicate, you know. Every aria, every musical idea has also a relation with, is related with the color in the orchestra. And all this color, we don't know if Offenbach really would have accepted or not. The only number we know is the La Chanson de Clensac. And I have to say, after many years as a conductor, as a musician, that for sure Ernst Guiraud did a great job, because if you compare Le Conte of Man with other Offenbach operas, I conducted some part of Orpheus and Fair. I conducted a very rare small opera by Offenbach, which is Coscoletto. It's very similar. So the language that this guy, this Ernst Guiraud, succeed to recreate, it's very, very close to the style of Offenbach. So we can be absolutely satisfied. Now, in this theater, we will use this critic edition, which is a big effort for the theater, because, of course, it has a cost, because it's something precious. But we have the opportunity, you have the opportunity to come and listen something with a scientific approach. We have the opportunity to perform a critic edition which is very well done. And I think we all of us, we are doing a great services in this direction to Offenbach.
Taigi, keliaujam į pradžią to, ką maestro pasakojo. Prie Barkarolės dar noriu sugrįžti. Kaip jisai sako, tai yra nemari muzika, tačiau ji premjeros metu buvo išimta, iškirpta ir priežastis buvo paprasta, kadangi originaliai Jacques Offenbachas norėjo parašyti 4 valandas 20 minučių muzikos, kas su visomis pertraukomis, šokoladais, pertraukomis, pabendravimais būtų daugiau nei 6 valandos teatre, kas, na, kaip sako Sesto Quatrini, gal ir ne visai įmanoma, tai dėl to tas veiksmas buvo iškirptas, tačiau kažkokiu būdu nėra iki galo aišku. Barkarolė ypatingai išpopuliarėjo, Barkarolės muzika ypatingai išpopuliarėjo Ir ji sugrįžo į 1907 metų leidimą, bet kas yra labai įdomu, vietomis buvo sukeisti veiksmai Džiuljetos ir Antonijos. Džiuljeta su Barkarolė persikėlė į trečiąjį veiksmą, o tuo kulminaciniu veiksmu ir kulminaciniu susitikimu tapo Antonija, kas pasak Sesto Quatrini nebuvo taip užmanyta paties Offenbacho, kadangi būtent ties Džiuljeta Hofmanas iš tikrųjų pasikeičia jo požiūris į meilę ir, kaip maestro sako, jis nebėra toks kvailas. Tačiau 1907 metų leidime šie veiksmai buvo sukeisti. Tuomet daug kas bandė rašyti muziką, pačius įvairiausius dalykus įtraukti į Hofmano istorijas. 1977 dar vienas leidimas pasirodė ir galiausiai link ko mes atėjom link to leidimo, link tos versijos, kurios mes klausysimės jau visai netrukus čia teatre. Tai yra kritinė redakcija, rezultatas ilgo muzikologinio, archeologinio darbo, aiškinantis visus šaltinius, juos analizuojant ir bandant atrasti iš tikrųjų tą originaliausią versiją, arčiausiai to, ką buvo Offenbachas pats sumastęs. Ir kaip sako Sesto Quatrini, labai gali būti, kad po 20 metų, po 100 metų mes turėsim naujus leidimus, naujas versijas, nes galbūt atsiras nauji duomenys, galbūt atsiras kažkokie tikslesni muzikologiniai instrumentai, kurie leis tam tikrus dalykus atrasti. Galbūt galų gale publika bus dar įnoringesnė ir sakys, mes norime klausytis tik originalo, ne to, kas yra netikra, bet, kaip sako Sesto Quatrini, iš tikrųjų, jeigu norėtume klausytis originalios Jacques Offenbacho versijos, mes turėtume klausytis versijos su fortepijonu, tai yra tik operos klavyro, nes tik tais Kleinzako dainą spėjo suorkestruoti pats Jacques Offenbachas. O Sesto Quatrini teigimu, iš tikrųjų, orkestruotė operoje yra labai labai svarbi, nes ta pati žymioji arija Si mi chiamamo Mimi iš tikrųjų neskambėtų taip pat, jeigu būtų orkestruota, tarkim, trombonams, o ne styginiams. Tačiau, kaip Sesto sako, Ernstas Giro labai neblogai padirbėjo, kadangi Sesto yra tekę diriguoti ir kitų mažiau žinomų Offenbacho kūrinių. Ir iš tikrųjų tą Offenbacho stiliaus dvasią, tą stilistiką Giro iš tikrųjų pavyko perteikti.
So, basically, I think now for ourselves now to look to the fact that somebody else reorchestrated an opera, we feel like a violence, and we say, oh my God. So this material is fake, it's not true. But you have to consider that, for example, during the times of Donizetti or Rossini, Mercadante, these composers were not composing the majority of the recitativi of the opera. Of the operas. There was always an assistant or a pianist, or the same fact that the Sinfonia was composed during the rehearsal because they need, also for reason, here we need 5-minute Sinfonia for theatrical reason. So I mean, these people were in a side less poetical than what we think, but in another side much more poetical, because they were artisans, genius, but with that attitude of the artisans. So, like there is the person, the chasseur, I don't know, the person who are doing the shoes, or people who are building the violins, there are people who are building music, and the notes are also for free. Instead, it's not a material that you pay. So the sense is this: the composers, Offenbach is a champion of this idea, because the operetta in Paris, in the operetta, as a musicians, we know that operetta is something that where you change a page, you put something else inside, it's absolutely mobile. So what is interesting about this edition, I have to add something, is that when you are the conductor and you receive this edition made by Kay and Keck in 2009, you have like a puzzle. you have not just one possibility. So you start from the preludio, and then you can decide. They offer to the conductor or to the theater the possibility to decide. Do you want to go to the spoken dialogues? So you follow this line, like if you are playing Monopoly. Yeah? So you go there. And then, do you want to use this music like Sentil Diamant, which is the aria of Coppelius? Do you want to really use or not? If you want to use, you must know that this is not original. They tell you. It's not original music composed by Offenbach, but it's so popular. It became so popular in the French repertoire itself that you as a conductor, you can decide, yes, because it's the aria of, so famous, Samuel Ramey, Bryn Terfel, the most important bass baritone in the world used to sing this aria. So, do you want to make your audience less happy? And just because you want to make a very cold philological exercise, or you want to make theater? Because this is a big question that we have to continue to repeat to ourselves. Before being conductors, before being stage directors, pianists, musicologists, we go for the theater, or we go for just a philological exercise, which is nice, absolutely. In this case, I decided to create a puzzle together with Martina Stachionis, Maestro Martina Stachionis. We did together this, so please make an applause to him, which is fantastic. A great Lithuanian young conductor with a bright future in front of him. And we did together this edition, deciding which piece we were preferring, which was the direction, according also with the stage director's concept. Because as you know, this is the fruit of an international directing competition. So the show was already there when we were called to decide which piece we wanted. So we tried to preserve as much as possible the original, but there are a couple of moments where the music is not original. The Supplément 2, which is at the beginning of the opera, it's Au Rêve et Joie, one aria of Niklause, is not original. Sentil Diamant is not original. All the recitativi accompagnati are not original because I just explained to you. So it's interesting because you have a puzzle, really a puzzle in front of you. You can decide which kind of piece you want to combine. And this gives, to me, and I think also to you, it should give the feeling that we are ready to do something unique. This edition is possible only here, with this show, with these singers, with this conductor in this theater. Because in another theater, they can decide to make a different choice, to go in a different direction for different sensibilities. So what is important to understand, Le Conte of Man, every performance of Le Conte of Man is a unique experience. Okay?
Taip, tai maestro pradėjo nuo to, kad kai mes sužinome, kad Hofmano istorijos apskritai kažkoks kūrinys, tarsi nėra vien tik kompozitoriaus originalas, publika gali pasijausti, šiek tiek įžeista, kad o kodėl mes klausomės kažko, kas yra netikra. Tačiau, kaip maestro sako, Donicečio, Rosinio laikais tai buvo visiškai įprasta praktika, kadangi labai dažnai recitatyvus operų parašydavo visai kiti žmonės, gal ir pianistai, padėjėjai ir panašiai, tai buvo visai įprasta praktika, kadangi iš esmės kompozitoriai tuo metu save laikydavo amatininkais, kaip batsiuviai siuva batus, kaip kiti amatininkai užsiima kitais amatais, taip kompozitoriai buvo iš esmės muziką kūrintis amatininkai. Ir taip patys į save žiūrėjo, tai galbūt nėra labai poetiška mintis, bet iš tikrųjų tokia buvo tiesa. O ypatingai ir pats Offenbachas iš tikrųjų jam tas požiūris galiojo, kadangi operetės yra toks dalykas, kur vieną puslapį išėmė, įdėjai kažką kitą, na tai yra labai labai mobilus žanras, taigi jam tokia praktika buvo įprasta. Na ir grįždamas prie šios kritinės redakcijos, tai taip pat yra labai įdomus dalykas visų pirma dirigentui, kuris pateikia jam tam tikrą dėlionę. Tai yra tarsi tam tikras žaidimas, kuriuo metu reikia nuspręsti, kuriuo keliu eiti. Nes vienas variantas yra, tarkim, rinktis kalbamosius dialogus ir tada jau toliau einama vienaip ar kitaip. Kitas variantas sako, na, tarkim, čia yra Kopelijaus arija, ji nėra originaliai sukomponuota Offenbacho, galima ją įtraukti, galima jos neįtraukti, tai yra dirigento sprendimas. Ir galima sakyti, kad, na, tai nėra originalas, nenaudokime šios arijos, tačiau yra nepaprastai žymi, dainuojama daugelio žymiausių solistų, tai kodėl liūdinti publiką, ar ne? Tai iš tikrųjų, kaip Sesto Quatrinis sako, jie kartu su Martynu Stakioniu, kuris taip pat diriguos Hofmano istorijų spektaklius, jie padarė, na, tą sprendimą, tą sudėliojo dėlionę ir ką labai svarbu yra pasakyti, kad Hofmano istorijų atveju kiekvienas šios operos pastatymas, kiekvienas atlikimas yra unikalus atvejis, unikalus šiam teatrui, unikalus šiam dirigentui, kitam teatre, diriguojant kitam dirigentui, tai būtų tarsi dar vienas unikalus kūrinys. Na, o Sesto Quatrinis kartu su Martynu Stakioniu darė sprendimus, atsižvelgdami ir į režisūrinę viziją. Kaip žinote, arba jeigu nežinote, režisieriai čia į teatrą atvyko konkurso būdu ir ta vizija jau egzistavo tuomet, kai, na, buvo daromi tie visi muzikiniai sprendimai. Taigi, kelis sykius Sesto Quatriniu pakartojo, kad Hofmano istorijos, kurias jūs išgirsit teatre, tai bus unikalus variantas būtent Lietuvos nacionalinio operos ir baleto teatro versija.
So, one of the big choice that one conductor or a stage director or a producer of Hofmann has in front of him or herself is how many soprano you want. Because the very first premiere was sung by one soprano. So all four roles, female roles, which are Stella, first and fifth act. In the first act, she doesn't sing. Okay, it's just there. She appears, but she doesn't sing. Then there is second act, Olympia. I say in Italian, not in French. Olympia. Then Antonia. Then Giulietta. So second, third, and fourth act. First act, let's consider the first act like a prologue of the beginning of the story. And then the fifth act is the epilogo, the end of the opera, where there is Stella, four sopranos. The premiere was sung by just one singer. Like, for example, for the roles of Lindorf, Coppelius, Miracle, and Dappertutto. This bass baritone, every act there is this bass baritone changing the name, but is the personification of the devil in different forms. In one a little bit gothic, in one a little bit grotesque, in another a little bit macabre, in another one very tragic. But is the personification of the devil in different declinations, theatrical and meta-theatrical declinations. About the women, about the soprano, what we do. In this case, I decided to, when I was artistic director, to appoint 4 different sopranos. So you will listen to 4 different voices, because the concept of Federico Grazzini was very, very, every act is a different sketch. And the fil rouge, which unites every act, are the feeling of Hofmann and the presence of the devil. But this soprano in this production, in my opinion, should have been very different between each other. So we decide with the theater to appoint 4 different voices. So when you will come to the performance, you will listen to 4 different voices every act. So Olympia, soprano colorature with the super famous aria that now we're gonna listen to. Not immediately, so be calm. And then the second is Antonia, which is a soprano lirico, pieno, full lirico, with another historical, fantastic aria, is Elle a fui la tourterelle. You will listen also this later. And then, but I don't sing this time because I don't want to destroy this wonderful music. And then there is Giulietta, which is in the between a soprano colorato. The original score is a lirico leggero. Then during the years, with all the variation that Nathalie Dessay particularly proposed to this role, became a super high coloratura soprano. But the original music, it doesn't suggest, actually, it is not going to the direction of a soprano di coloratura, but as a soprano lirico leggero, but actually not very leggero. And then the finale there is Stella, which is soprano lirico. So we have 4 different voices with 8 different singers, because we have double cast. So this is important because the cast of Hofmann is like the cast of Rosenkavalier. There is a big amount of singers on stage, a lot. The chorus is particularly important in this opera, is pivotal, because the chorus is the center of a lot of actions. Sometimes it's like a Greek chorus, which is just there observing what is happening and judging, or maybe just telling us as an audience what is happening, like a narrator, or just reacting to what is happening. It's very active with wonderful music, and the part of the chorus is very difficult, and I have to say we have a very good chorus. It's very dynamic part. Then we have these 4 characters, the soprano. Then we have Niklausen and La Muse. It's sung by the same mezzo-soprano. So the mezzo-soprano is always on stage, like Hofmann. Hofmann is the protagonist, is a tenore lirico spinto, I would say. It depends, because there are different styles during the opera. It's very fragmented. So there is not one style from the first bar till the last bar. There are a lot of different styles. Every act is has a different taste, flavor. And Hofmann is one of the most enrolled for a tenore in the entire repertoire, because he's always on stage, everything is on his shoulders, and he has to switch the style. And I have to say that Offenbach was not very gentle with him, because the tessitura, the pitch where he has to sing, it's always around what we call technically passaggio, so where the voice changes. The larynx changes its position. Can I have a glass of water? There is. Oh, sorry, thank you. There is. Okay, now I drink. And so it's very, very demanding role. Very demanding. It's super difficult to cast, and we are very happy here to have 2 very good Hofmann, Jean-François Borras and Jason Kim. Then we have 4 roles for the tenore di carattere. So there is always, in every atto, one comic, buffo character. Even more than one, sorry. Every atto, this opera, which is a serious opera, because it talks about death, killing, wine, drama, drugs, smoke, sex, perversions, fears, doubts, psychology, Freud. It's ante litteram Freudian. But there is always the touch of the operetta. No? This composer was a genius. He always succeeded to put one drop of, even in the atto, in the most tragic atto, which is Antonia, the third, there is the aria arioso, aria di Franz, which is super comic. of a person who wants to sing, who wants to act, but is not able even to sing and to act. It's super comic, but it's perfect because it's a moment of sweet before the tragedy. So in every act, there is a moment of entertainment, spicy, crispy, and then there is the end, which is dramatic or tragic. It depends about the act. This just to mention the cast. There are a lot of other characters, baritone, Luther and Crespel, other small roles, the students, and other tenors, Spallanzani Nathanael. In two acts, the same person sings two roles. So I mean, the scene is very composed and very various. And every atto is a little word, intimate word of psychology with a very simple story, I would say, apparently, but super deep in what it moves inside ourselves. If we come to the theater to be totally open to receive what this opera can give to us, actually a mirror of ourselves, or our perversions, sexual fears, what I said before, what I mentioned before. If we come here just to watch an operetta, we are out of the way. If we come here to watch just a tragic opera, it doesn't work. If we come here only to listen to the music, also it doesn't work, because it's beautiful music, but it's not the most important part. The most important part is to see, reflect ourselves with our problem that we have daily in our life, very deep. Sometimes we even don't know that we have this problem, reflected in the theater. So only with this attitude we can really understand this opera. Then now we're gonna listen a little bit and then drink. Okay. Next time wine, huh?
Maybe I'll translate now.
Yeah.
Good. Taigi, pradėsiu nuo to, nuo ko pradėjo Sesto. Nuo to, kad pirmas dalykas, dėl kurio reikia apsispręsti šioje operoje, be viso to, apie ką jau kalbėjom, yra tai, kiek sopranų bus. Nes, pavyzdžiui, premjeroje dainavo vienintelis sopranas. Tačiau iš tikrųjų kiekviename veiksme mes turime vis kitą sopraną. Iš pradžių yra Stela, tuomet Olimpija, Antonija ir Džiuljeta. Tai šio pastatymo, kurį išvysime čia teatre, atveju bus keturi sopranai. Ir pagal režisieriaus Federico Grazzini viziją iš tikrųjų kiekvienas veiksmas, jis yra tarsi kitas eskizas. Taigi, iš tikrųjų, tas scena ir veiksmas bus labai dinamiški. Lygiai taip pat vis skirtingais vardais pasirodo ir velnias. Tačiau tie skirtingi personažai, Lindorfas, Miraklis ir visi kiti, jie vis tiek yra velnio personifikacija. Todėl tas priėjimas jis yra kitoks negu, tarkim, sopranų atžvilgių. Kalbant apie patį Hofmaną, kuris yra pagrindinis šios operos veikėjas, jis visuomet yra scenoje. Ir jo partija iš tikrųjų yra sudėtinga. Joje labai daug vietų, kurios yra vadinamos pasadžio, tai yra tas pereinamoji vieta, kai keičiasi balsas, taigi, kaip sako Sesto Quatrini, iš tikrųjų Offenbachas Hofmano nepagailėjo, tai yra labai sudėtinga partija. Lygiai taip pat gana sudėtinga yra ir choro partija. Choras čia kartais net veikia kaip ir graikiškasis choras, kuris komentuoja tai, kas vyksta, ar ne? Tai, kaip sako maestro, teatras turi puikų chorą, dėl to labai yra smagu ir choras čia veikia daug. Apskritai, šioje operoje yra labai daug veikėjų, užtat viskas vyksta nepaprastai dinamiškai. Ir ką reikėtų pasakyti apskritai, kaip šį kūrinį vertėtų patirti, tai iš tikrųjų svarbiausia atėjus yra, įsileisti visą tą psichologiją, būti atviriems jai, kadangi iš tikrųjų tai yra kūrinys, kuris yra labai dramatiškas, nepaisant to, kad kiekviename veiksme dar yra ir po komišką charakterį. Tai Offenbachas, kaip sako Sesto Quatrini, buvo genialus ta prasme, kad jis net sugebėjo tą tokį lengvumo žiupsnelį kiekvieną į šią operą vis tiek įtraukti, kadangi yra komiškiai charakteriai, net ir pačiose tragiškiausiose vietose. Bet grįžtant prie to, su kokiu požiūriu galbūt verta būtų į šį kūrinį ateiti, tai galima ateiti ir tiesiog laukti operetės, galima ateiti ir tiesiog paklausyti gražios muzikos, kuri yra labai graži, bet iš tikrųjų šį kūrinį suprasti, pasak maestro, galima tik tada, jeigu mes ateisim atviri susitikimui su savimi pačiais, su galbūt net ir pačiomis tamsiausiomis savo vidinėmis kertelėmis, su kažkokiamis obsesijomis, problemomis, kurių nežinojame galbūt net, kad turime, nes, ši opera gali veikti kaip veidrodis. Taigi tik tada, jei ateisim labai atviri, susitikti ir šią operą tarsi perleisti per save, tik tada iš tikrųjų Hofmano istorijas mums galbūt pavyks suprasti.
So, consider first of all the word. I mean, this opera is super modern. It's modern even now. I'm sure that it will create a big scandal here in Lithuania. I'm sure. Because when I was artistic director, I received a couple of 3 letters of protest by the audience because Romeo was a woman in Capulet and Montecchi, because it was sexually too much to see a woman singing dressed as a man, and they said, "Maestro, you are transforming LNOBT in LNOBTQ+." Actually, I'm very proud to have transformed LNOBT also in LNOBTQ+, honestly. But in this production, you will see much more extreme situations, particularly in the sexual direction. Because I don't want to spoil you the surprise. You must come and you must be scandalized by this. But I'm sure that everybody will talk about this, everybody. Because it's impossible to come to a theater, to watch a performance, to listen to this music and not to be touched by the music and by also what you will see on stage. That maybe at the beginning can be a little bit, disorienting. But I think that actually it moves something deeply in our consciousness. You have to consider probably this is what Offenbach wanted. Because imagine in 1880, just a little bit before the restoration of Napoleon III in France. So the restauratio of the Ancien Régime, in a place where he was Jewish from Germany. Actually, from a place in Germany which was always between France and Germany. France and Germany. It's like to say Kaliningrad now. No? A place that was every time, for 10 years France, from 10 years like Saarbrücken, Alsace and Lorraine. He was exactly from there as Jewish, German, with Jacques Offenbach. And working in Paris in the operetta. When there was the Restauratio, basically the music of Offenbach was considered Serie B because he was a corrupter of the values of that country. And for years, people were against the music of Offenbach, against the bouffe, le bouffe du Nord, le bouffe de Parisienne. Actually, is one of the music we recognize immediately as French music, Offenbach. Immediately, you say, oh my God, it's so French. But in that period, in those periods, people in that particular political moment were refusing that music. It's very actual. It's very actual. It's something that is happening also now. Also here in this country, we can't listen to Tchaikovsky because he's a Russian. But actually he's a Russian born in Ukraine. So what is Tchaikovsky? So it's very actual, the experience of Offenbach. And it brings us to reflect about sometimes also the degeneration of the political idea applied to the art. Because this is one of the big topics that I think this music can open. Also here, I just give you some drop, then you reflect by yourself. I already have my answer, but I have not to share with anybody. But it's important to consider that the music that we're gonna listen was music that for 20 years was successful, but considered corruption, or something that was corrupting the value of that France. And now we immediately recognize as France. This is the first. The second point where I think we have to reflect is that Offenbach was so modern because consider that he put on stage, 7 years later, Verdi was composing Otello. Okay, 7 years later, Otello, which is super modern. But I think this is even somehow more modern than Otello Verdi. Different languages, of course, not comparable. But imagine the story of a poet which is using drugs, opium, drinking, wine, is always drunk, destroyed. Okay? And he's going inside the tavern in Nuremberg, in Germany. The atto opens in this way. And then he's totally drunk when he arrives. People are drinking beer, wine, whatever. There is a very, very sparkling atmosphere. And he arrives quite destroyed, but he's a genius. So he starts to get the attention of the people. He starts to talk about his loves in the past. For Olympia, for Juliet, for Antonia. And how tragic these love were. At the end of the opera, we discovered that he lives in a very difficult condition, which is the condition that every artist, and I know something about that, lives. Do you love more, in my case, my wife, my life, my personal life, or the poetry of music? Every artist has to deal with this contrast, because sometimes your art is bringing out you from the real world, because you're living in a parallel universe. Sometimes else you say, okay, but the real life, I prefer the real life because it's my wife, there is my daughter, there is all my things. So it's difficult to combine the two things. And this is the Leben, the life of an artist. La vita d'eroe, the Leben of Strauss is not talking about an hero like Wagnerian hero, but about artists. The big tension that inside the life of the art of an artist is born just to, in the conflict, in the big conflict that everybody of us has inside in between the real and the poetical life. And this is exactly what he's talking about. At the end, he decided to love la muse, the poetry. So at the end, Hofmann will love the poetry more than every woman in the world, which is bittersweet because, okay, but it's very modern. The same period when Offenbach was composing this opera is the period of Maupassant. Émile Zola was writing Nana in the newspaper every week. There was one chapter of Nana, this wonderful novel by Émile Zola, and Baudelaire was close, Apollinaire, some years later, Paul Éluard. And the exotism, the French exotism was starting because the inauguration of the opening of the Tour Eiffel was very close to be 1889. So just 9 years later, the exotism started. So this is the broth, the swimming pool, the cultural swimming pool, where Offenbach was creating a very modern thing that is modern also now. And you will see when you will come here to the theater how modern the ideas of Offenbach and Jules Barbier and Michel Carré are.
Tai Sesto pradėjo nuo to, kad Hofmano istorijos iš tikrųjų yra labai super modernus kūrinys ir jo teigimu šis pastatymas, kurį pamatysis teatre, greičiausiai bus skandalingas, sukels skandalą ir jis prisiminė keletą istorijų, kai gavo laiškų iš klausytojų dėl to, kad Romeo Kapulečiuose ir Montekiuose dainavo moteris ir jį kaltino tuo, kad Lietuvos nacionalinio operos ir baleto teatrą pavertė LGBTQ+ teatru ir panašiai. panašiai. Tai visokių tokių atsitikimų buvo. Maestro tęsė pasakodamas šiek tiek apie kontekstą, apie tą laiką, apie tuos 1880-uosius. Kai iš tikrųjų, Prancūzijoje visai netrukus tas senasis režimas su Napoleonu III sugrįžo, o Offenbachas buvo žmogus iš tokios vietos, kuri dalį laiko priklausė Prancūzijai, dalį laiko Vokietijai, žodžiu, tarsi tokioje vietoje tarp. Ir tuo metu jo muzika, ta opera bufa, operetės, tai, ką mes šiandien iš tikrųjų iš karto išgirdę laikome prancūzišką muziką, tuo metu buvo tarsi taip truputėlį padėta į šalį, pradėta žiūrėti į tai tarsi kažką iš praeities. Tai Sesto paminėjo, kad tai irgi turbūt rezonuoja su šiandiena, nes, tarkim, dėl esamos politinės situacijos pas mus mes netliekame, nesiklausome Čaikovskio, kuris, gimęs iš esmės buvo Ukrainos teritorijoje, tai ateityje galbūt bus kažkaip permastyti šitie dalykai. Ir Offenbachas vėlgi grįžo Sesto prie to, kad tuo metu iš tikrųjų jo kuriama muzika, kuri šiandien yra tokia tarsi prancūziškos muzikinės kultūros esencija, buvo šiek tiek taip nustumta į šalį. Bet vėlgi jis grįžo prie tos minties, kad Offenbacho kūrinys yra labai labai modernus ir toks palyginimas su Verdžio Otelu, kuris po 7 metų atsirado, nors tai labai skirtingi kūriniai, bet tam tikrą prasme Sesto Quatrini teigimu Hofmano istorijos galbūt net yra dar modernesnės. Ir apskritai tas laikas, kuriuo šis kūrinys gimė Prancūzijoje, tai buvo laikas, kai rašė Milizolia, Gidė Maupasanas, neilgai trukus ir Apolineras ir kiti žymieji prancūzų novatoriai literatūroje atsirado, Eifelio bokštas po 9 metų yra atidaromas. Tai buvo toks atsinaujinimo laikas ir ta modernumo dvasia, visą tai iš tikrųjų šiame kūrinyje galima jausti, galima išgirsti ir bus galima pamatyti šioje premjeroje lygiai taip pat.
Okay, so just to understand how modern, how beautiful is the opera, the first number of the opera we will meet is this chorus, which opens the opera, but the chorus is off stage. And so you don't see the chorus. There are some production where the chorus is on stage, some production where they are off stage. In this case, they will be off stage. And they sing glou, 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 glou. Je suis la bière, je suis le vin. I'm the beer, I'm the wine. The spirit of alcohol are talking. And we feel that we are already in a situation like a German, Austrian pub, or let's say Lithuanian pub, can be everywhere. But anyway, we feel that there is something sparkling that is going in there. So the opera opens with, how many? I tell you. Like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bars preludio. So nothing, it's just the music not original, because Offenbach didn't compose these bars, but this is probably just the music that Ernst Giraud decided to compose to open the opera, because otherwise the opera was starting according with the materials Offenbach proposed with glou glou. So let's start just the first 10 bar of glou glou without the preludium, and this is the canto piano, the vocal score that Offenbach gave when the first time Giraud opened. There was this. Okay, so you can't really open a night in the theater like that, particularly because in that period at the theater people were doing also some other things. I mean, the theater the serious attitude that we have now in the theater is absolutely contemporary, modern, this scientific approach to listening to music. But in that period, those period, people in the theater were playing in the casino, they were eating, they were going just for politics. People, even in La Scala, they were even not watching the show. They had mirrors inside the palchetti, just that they were talking, and from the mirror they were watching what was happening. So for now it's impossible. But those times was this. So they composed this preludio. Tromba. And then you feel, no? Then glou, 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 glou. Je suis la bière. Glou, 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 glou. Je suis le vent. And then, etc., etc. Very modern.
Maybe I translate.
Yes, absolutely.
Kad nepasimestume. Tai pirmas epizodas, kurį girdėjote, tai buvo medžiaga, kurią atsiverstęs Ernstas Giro rado, tai ką Offenbachas buvo jau sukūręs. Ir kaip sako Sesto Quatrini, nuo to kaip ir vakaro operos teatre nelabai išėjo pradėti. Tai Giro sukomponavo 9 taktų preliudą, kurį ką tik girdėjote, tai buvo antrasis pavyzdys ir tada pereinant jau į tą originalią Offenbacho paliktą medžiagą. Ir iš esmės opera prasideda nuo choro, gliu, 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 ką tik girdėjote, kuris ne scenoje, jis yra už scenos, kai kuriuose pastatymuose choras būna scenoje, bet šio pastatymo atveju jisai nebus scenoje. Ir tai yra operos pradžios medžiaga, tai toliau dabar leisiu Sesto tęsti. Dar gal paminėsiu tik tai, kad Sesto Quatrini paminėjo, jog reikėtų pasakyti, jog anksčiau žmonės teatre, jie netaip rimtai žiūrėjo į teatrą, jie daug kitų dalykų veikė, lošė, valgė, gėrė ir kai kada būdavo net ir veidrodžiai, kai tiesiog per veidrodį žmonės žiūrėdavo, kas ten scenoje vyksta, tai iš tikrųjų ta tokia labai rimtas nusiteikimas ateinant į teatrą, kai rimtai sėdim, žiūrim, klausom operos, tai čia daugiau yra mūsų laikų šiuolaikinis dalykas.
Then la muse arrives on stage and sings like a manifesto of the opera, let's say. So she tells a story, the muse arrives from some place, blah, blah, blah. I'm la musa, I inspire more or less the people. We understand that this person, this character is important and arrives, introducing herself. With the chorus, continues to sing glue, 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 glue. It's a beautiful aria. I don't want to spoil you this aria. It's an aria di bravura for the mezzo soprano. And for now, everything is very clear. We are in a tavern, there is the chorus totally drunk, people are drunk, more or less, or it's gonna be drunk, and then there is la muse. Then there is immediately the entrance of the devil in the costume of Lindorf. So, as I told you, there is one singer who is singing in all the acts. In the first and the fifth is Lindorf. In the second, just the first, okay, but the second is Coppelius, the third is Dottor Miracle, the fourth is Dappertutto. These different characters are basically the different personification of the devil, of the negative. As I was telling you, gothic, grotesque, macabre, and tragic. So the different personification of the devil. Because the devil is not only the one who can kill you, but is also the one who can corrupt, for example, your purity. For somebody, particularly Catholic, even money, are the fruit of the devil. Because for money we can do something that we don't do for something else. So Offenbach and Jules Barbier and Michel Carré understood this, and so they proposed the devil in 4 different perspectives. In this case, the devil is Lindorf, who is a man who loves Stella. Stella is a singer, which doesn't sing in the first act. Stella is a singer, young singer, beautiful, who sings in Don Giovanni, in the theater close to this taverna. So we have also some music that remembers Don Giovanni. There is a moment when there is pam 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 pam, notte e giorno fa dormire, bam. Just the eccitazione, of this opera. Hofmann is in love with Stella, but Lindorf also loves Stella. So he wants to create a problem to Hofmann in order to love Stella. And the music, this is a coup de théâtre and geniality. Taking the Wagnerian lesson as his own lesson, like also I explained here 2 months ago about Verdi, Aida. In Aida, Verdi understood that Wagner, with the leitmotif theory, did a big revolution. So he associated some music to different characters and moments of the opera. The same thing is made by Offenbach. And there is a leitmotif that which introduce this. Anytime the entrance of the devil. And the leitmotif is this. It sounds familiar, no? The Queen of the Night of Zauberflöte. Again, only that pass. So it's beautiful, no? It's a citazione, is probably an homage that Offenbach did to Mozart, using the music that in the Queen of the Night was very high, because it's in the sky, for soprano colorature. In this case, very low, for a basso. And every time the devil arrives, you as audience, because you will listen this in different tonalities, transformed a little bit, with different resolution, but every time you will listen this music.
Taip. Tai pradėsiu nuo to, kad po pradžios choro, apie kurį kalbėjom, scenoje pasirodo mūza ir pristato tokį tam tikrą operos manifestą, tarsi tam tikras esminės operos idėjas, tai labai graži arija mezzo-sopranui. Na ir tada pasirodo velnės. Viena iš velnio personifikacijų tai yra Lindorfas, kuris pasirodo pirmame 5. veiksme. Jau prieš tai Sesto minėjo, kad iš tikrųjų šioje operoje yra kelios velnio personifikacijos ir jos tarsi įkūnija skirtingus velnio pavydalus, nes velnės yra ne tik tas, kuris gali nužudyti, velnės yra tas, kuris gali užvaldyti protą, kaip, tarkim, pinigai gali užvaldyti protą ir tą mūsų tyrumą, gerumą pavergti. Tai velnės pirmame ir 5. operos veiksmas yra Lindorfas, 2. veiksme Kopelijus, 3. Miraklis, 4. Depertutas. Ir tai šie velnio pavydalai pristato jį kaip groteską ir kaip įvairiausias kitas formas. Ir pirmas fragmentas, kurį dabar girdėjome, tai buvo fragmentas iš operos Don Juanas ir visai nebereikalo, kadangi Lindorfas myli dainininkę Stelą. O Stela pirmame veiksme jį dainuoja šalia tavernos, kuriame vyksta veiksmas, esančiame teatre, būtent operoje Don Juanas. Tai iš tikrųjų Hofmanas įtraukė konceptualiai nebereikalo fragmentą iš Don Juano, tai buvo pirmasis fragmentas, kurį mes girdėjome. Antrasis fragmentas tai yra leitmotyvas, vėlgi ta wagneriškąja maniera, kurią panaudojo ir Hofmanas. Tai yra leitmotyvas, kurį mes girdim kas kart, kai scenoje pasirodo velnio personifikacija. Taigi kiekvienas sykį, kai scenoje mes matom Lindorfą, Kopelijų, Miraklį ir kitas velnio personifikacijas Hofmano istorijose, mes išgirstam tą motyvą, kurį ką tik girdėjote grojama. Ir čia irgi yra labai įdomu, kad, kaip iliustravo ir Sesto, šis motyvas, tai yra tam tikra reminiscencija iš žymiosios Nakties karalienės arijos iš Mocarto užburtosios fleitos. Tik Nakties karalienės arija yra nepaprastai aukštai parašyta, ar ne, koloratūriniam sopranui, o čia bosas labai, labai, labai žema tesitura, bet Hofmanas, tarsi taip nusilenkė Mocartui.
Mozart twice, no? Because there is the night of Don Giovanni in the closed theater, and there is this tito tim brom, notte giorno va a dormire brom, and first citazione, and then there is another one here, which is geniale. I think it's incredible, no? To use the music, a part of the music of the Queen of the Night, to make the devil in the basso, with bassoon, double bass and cello playing. So this very dark instrument, the lowest we have in the orchestra, the double bass. And there is no controfagotto, because actually the controfagotto should be the absolutely the lower instrument in the orchestra. But anyway, probably he didn't. Ernst Giraud didn't have any controfagotto in the orchestra. So anyway, the fact is this: there is this Lindorf, who is an old person in love with this tale. He says in this aria, very beautiful, very difficult actually, which is slightly Spanish reminding. A little bit. Now we will play just one strophe, one couplet. He says, I love Stella, I want to be with Stella, I'm old, but je suis vif, but I'm alive. So I'm old, but I don't leave the space to this guy, to this young guy, because I will fight somehow. And the music, for example, if you can play just, let's say, Shemta Trideshemt, we wish her a prima donna, okay? If you succeed also the tema, because I really don't want to sing today. Thank you. Vai, try to. Parfumé que le diable emporte chez de dire. And then the devil suddenly, je suis vif, je suis vif, mais je suis vif, je suis vif. Okay, bravissimo. This is the intro. Make an applause to this guy. Thank you. This music is the music with which Lindorf introduced to ourselves. And we understand that, very elegantly, very nice. The devil is elegant. Like Il Diavolo Veste Prada, you know the movie. It's ante litteram that. Then, immediately there is Luther, who is the owner of the birreria, of the pub, let's say, who arrives and says, okay, there are the students, and there is the music which introduces the alcoholic fermentation that inside this pub is coming. It's very difficult technically, but I ask you to play. Thank you. From letter B, Trideshemt Viens, next number. Pa 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 pa. And then chorus. 3, 4, drin, 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 dric, dric, maître Luther, ils sont l'affaire. À nous ta bière, à nous ton vin, dric, 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 dric. Now listen how he does the people drunk. Now. So, geniale, thank you. Cioè, it starts, bravissimo, it starts with something which is, we drink, drig. It's a sound, just to remember probably the noise of, the izveikata. No? Let's do izveikata. And then, step by step, he creates this energy in accelerando, and people start to be really, really drunk.
Maybe I'm translating.
Yeah. But izveikata, they understood very well.
That part.
Yeah.
Bet pirmiausia, mes pradėjom nuo...
Just one small thing. Sorry. The word he wants to represent is the same word that Karl Orff, some 70 years later, 100 years later, did with the Carmina Burana. There is this tradition of students, poets, Carmine, in Bologna actually, in Italy they were the first, of poems composed by students of the university, and Bologna is one of the the oldest university in the world, where they, in this tavern, in this place, they were creating these Carminas, Carmen, and all these poems that were representing exactly the word of the student. So with a lot of reference to alcohol, to be glitter and gay in the life, to see the future in a bright way. And probably this word is somehow inspired by that kind of poetry. Onomatopoeic sounds, with these sounds that are not really words, but just remembering the effect of in this case, the glass to get drig, drun, drun. So this is probably the cultural word that he wanted to create.
Tai pradėsiu nuo Lindorfo, kadangi pirmasis fragmentas, kurį mes girdėjome, tai buvo būtent iš Lindorfo arijos. Lindorfas yra senas, prisistato kaip senas žmogus, tačiau nepaisant to jisai sako, aš esu gyvas ir aš nepaliksiu vietos Hofmanui, tam jaunam žmogui, meilės Stelai atžvilgiu. Ir mes girdėjom fragmentą iš Lindorfo prisistatymo. Na, o antrasis fragmentas, tai iš pradžių, kaip Sesto minėjo, tai garsas, kai alkoholis fermentuojasi ir tada atsiranda choras, kuris, iš tikrųjų vaizduoja išgėrusių žmonės. Ir ką dabar Sesto pasakojo apie tą seną tradiciją, Bolonijos universitetas, seniausias pasauliu universitetas jie turi, kai studentai kuria poeziją, eiles, tačiau ji yra iš esmės susijusi, toje poezijoje yra daug kalbama apie alkoholį, apie įvairiausius malonumus, tačiau kartu yra svarstama apie šviesią ateitį ir ta poezija tarsi, imituoja tą susidaužimo bokalais garsą, tai kaip Sesto Quatrini sako, iš tikrųjų greičiausiai Hofmanas referuoja būtent į tą kultūrinį sluoksnį, į tą kultūrinį pasaulį, tos tokios studentiškos poezijos, kuri kalba apie malonumus, apie šviesę jų laukiančią ateitį.
Wow. So, 128 is letter G. Is the viva, c'est lui, viva, c'est lui. So Hofmann suddenly arrives after they drink. Now, I don't want to spoil all the score, but so somebody's arriving. Veillons sur lui. So the chorus says, it's him is arriving, Hofmann. No, is viva, c'est lui. So he's arriving, is Hofmann. And the devil said, veillons sur lui. So watch out him. No? And then this is the music of Hofmann. And you understand that this is the music. Just play the music without rubato, as is written by Offenbach. This is what we got, me and Martinez. And then we decide to let you really understand that he's totally drunk. because he arrives that he has the fog of the alcohol, no? So what you will hear, it will be this. Veillons sur lui. Padam. For this. And then accelerando. Then echo, because a person drunk has always something. And then he starts to sing. So you feel that there is a jam of craziness, no? If you use the music for a theatrical service, because me and Maestro Stacchionis, we can go on the podium and do ti 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 ta 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 ta. What I give to you? What I give? Nothing. Just beautiful music. But how can I be a medium in between the idea of the composer, even if Offenbach died? So I don't know. But yesterday I spoke with him and he told me, yes, it's correct. It's correct, Sesto, it's correct. Let's do this because I want a drunk person. Even if I didn't speak with him for real, I spoke with my soul that tells me, bravo, do this. Because he arrives drunk and the audience has to understand that he's drunk. And when a person is drunk, and I think, come on, everybody was drunk of you at least once in their life. Me, I experienced this experience. It's not that pleasant, but you go in another world, you go in another dimension, and you really can't control yourself. And the control is not the tempo. The not control is to not to give you the feeling that something is a regular narration and boring, no? But you are walking, no? In this way. And so this music is doing exactly and you feel that there is the genius inside the mind of Hofmann, because Hofmann is a poet, and a poet is a genius. So basically, it's the story of one of your most important poets. Roman Gary, Lithuanian. Then he changed the name, then he committed suicide. But Roman Gary was one of the most important minds of this country. Jewish also, like Offenbach. Escaped from this country because let's say pogrom, not pogrom, but I mean the Shoah and the persecution against the Jewish community. So now in Lithuania is the perfect place because we talk about the story of somebody which is very similar to Roman Gary, composed by a Jewish composer, half German and half French. And I mean, it's very actual. As I was telling you before, we are talking about something that is still touchable, even in your culture, okay? So if you want to translate this, but I think it's clear. But
I'll translate it shortly. Tai ką mes girdėjom, du skirtingus variantus Hofmano pasirodymo scenoje. Pirmasis buvo be rubato, kaip parašė Offenbachas. Antrasis buvo su rubato, su visais tempų pasikeitimais, kaip nusprendė daryti Sesto Quatrini kartu su Martynu Stakionio, kadangi jie siekia teatro, nes galima daryti originaliai, ar moksliškai, archeologiškai, taip kaip parašyta, bet be sielos. Tačiau norėjusi parodyti iš tikrųjų, išgėrusi žmogų, kuris, ne visai orientuojasi, kuris girdi kažkokius balsus, sunkiau juda erdvėje, nes, kaip sako Sesto, visi esam sykį ir kitą jautėsi apgirtę, tai nėra labai malonus jausmas, bet tai yra kontrolės neegzistavimas. Aiškus, reguliarus tempas tai yra kontrolė, o ne kontrolė, kurią jaučia išgėręs žmogus iš tikrųjų, ir yra tie tempų pasikeitimai, kuriuos buvo galima išgirsti ką tik. Ir kaip Sesto sako, iš tikrųjų Hofmanas poetas, genialus poetas. Ir čia Sesto priminė Romeną Gary, kilusi, žydų kilmės autorių, kilusi iš Lietuvos, labai, labai svarbu mąstytoją, puikų autorių, paralelę išvedė kartu su Offenbachu, kuris irgi buvo žydas, taip pat pusiau vokietis, pusiau prancūzas. Tai irgi tikras genijus. Tai ties čia mes su Sesto ir sustojom.
Then there is a wonderful aria. Hoffman sings a wonderful aria, very long, which is La Chanson de Kleinsack, which is the only piece really orchestrated by Offenbach. Now we will let you listen the first motif, which is the most important. But anyway, this aria is very complex because there are 3 couplets, so 3 repetitions. The first 2 are together at the beginning. It's very, very funny opera. A little bit jazzy, like the Pink Panther. Then there is an intermezzo in this area where he starts to be a dreamer. So you feel the psychology of the poet, He's drunk. He's quite also a little bit clown in this moment, where he tells about story, quite fantastic story. He talks about the l'avorton, some not important things, okay? But very funny music. And then there is a moment where there is a switch, click, and they start to dream again about love. How often Offenbach succeed to do this? Minore. Cric-crac, tric-trac, tric-trac. Voilà, voilà, Kleinsack, coro. Cric-crac, cric-crac, tric-trac. Voilà, voilà, la Kleinsack. Okay, this is the music. Then, in the middle, there is a medium part in the middle where you feel that something is happening. How with the rallentando? Let's go to bar Penki Dasham Trees. Okay? Yeah. You feel that is lower. Even more. You feel something is happening in his mind. Love, no? And then, now the passion, the syncope. Mozart invented this, not Offenbach. Belle come un jour au courant après elle quitte comme une folie, eccetera, eccetera, eccetera. She's beautiful, my God, blah, blah, blah. And she is speaking exactly about the triple identity of the woman he loves. He loves Stella, and Stella is at the same time the 3 women he used to love in the 3 stories that we are gonna listen. So, Stella is the result of the failures of his life. How many people are marrying or they are deciding to live a life after having other kind of experience, and then they find finally the result in the person that they met for last, also all the fears, all the nice things also of the life before. It's possible because our life is an experience of different things. So it's possible, and this is exactly what he says. He says there are 3 women in one, and this one result is Stella. Okay. Then, sorry, he finished this, he start to drink again, blah, blah, blah. And when he says this, not in this area, but he says that with this piece that it looks like Wagner. Now, you can translate, and then we listen this Wagner, which is incredible.
Tai mes ką tik girdėjom fragmentą iš Kleinsako dainos, priminsiu, tai yra vienintelis fragmentas, kurį spėjo suorkestruoti pats Offenbachas. Ir kaip sako Sesto, iš tikrųjų įdomi struktūra yra šio epizodo, kadangi yra 3 posmai, pirmi 2 yra šalia vienas kito ir jie tokie gana linksmi, šiek tiek komiški, kaip sako, net šiek tiek džiaziniai, rožinė pantera šiek tiek primena, tai mes jų klausėmės ir staiga kažkas įvyksta ir mes girdėjom tą perėjimą muzikoje, kai Hofmanas, jis pradeda galvoti apie savo meilę ir muzika tampa tokia šiek tiek labiau svajokliška, tos mintis apie meilę ir muzikoje iš tikrųjų tarsi yra įkūnijamos. Ir čia Hofmanas pradeda galvoti apie Stelą, apie tą 3 jo praeities mylimųjų įsikūnijimą, tą tobulą moterį. Ir kaip maestro sakė, iš tikrųjų Stela tarsi yra Hofmano nesėkmių rezultatas, iš tikrųjų tų praeities nesėkmių, kaip ir tikrame gyvenime. Mes turime pačių įvairiausių patirčių, kol galiausiai galbūt sutinkame su tą žmogų, su kuriuo susitokiam, kuris yra tikras tas kurio laukiam ir ieškojom. Taigi Stela yra tų 3 moterų, su kurias anksčiau mylėjo Hofmanas ir apie kurias jis toliau operoje pasakos, įsikūnijimas.
I reduced to be a little bit fast because there are 20 minutes of music in between what I said at the beginning and this phrase of oui, c'était là 3 femmes dans la même femme, 3 seul âme, artiste, jeune fille et courtisane. No? But it's just to try to be synthetic. Anyway, this is the music of the letter. The solo cello, the music of the letter that you will see at the beginning with Lindorf, and then at the end there is suddenly Wagner when he says, I love this woman, and she represents 3 in 1. Oui, Stella, 3 femmes dans la même femme. Corno. Tromboni, and then Wagner. First horn. It looks like Siegfried. Minore. Do you want to know the story? Oui, the chorus answer. And so, this way is the theatrical way how Offenbach brings the story to the next act, which is Olympia. You can say this, and then we're gonna listen something of Olympia.
Na ir čia mes ką tik girdėjom tą tokį wagnerišką perėjimą, kaip sako Sesto, galim tarsi girdėti Wagnerio Siegfriedą tame, ko mes ką tik klausėmės. Kai po šios muzikos Hofmanas paklausė, ta prasme, ar jūs norite sužinoti, kokios buvo tos 3 meilės. Ir taip, tokiu labai teatrališku teatriniu būdu Offenbachas mus atveda į kitą veiksmą, kuris yra Olimpijos pirmosios jo praeities mylimosios veiksmas, ir dabar klausysimės fragmento iš jo.
So the act of Olympia is incredible, and it will create big problem here in Lithuania because oh yeah. So it's the story of a doll. So there is this Pallanzani, who is a creator, a creator of dolls. So the atto is like a long minuetto, tempo di minuetto. Tan, tan, pam, 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 pam. You feel immediately that we are going to the 18th century. No? Like, just remembering this minuetto, this music, which is a little bit à la manière de... And then there is this Pallanzani. I can't tell you exactly what you will see here. I don't know if the stage director already did, but I want to. No, so if you are curious, you have to come. And anyway, he creates dolls, and his daughter is a doll, un automate. So it's not a real person. It's just a doll. In our production, it's a particular doll, let's say. Super particular. But the beginning of this act is a sequence of one aria of arioso, let's say, of very difficult, with solo, corno, horn, French horn solo, and a tenore. And then there are two arias in sequence for Niklause, who is La Musa, now became a man. So another role en travesti, it will be a disaster for the audience to accept a woman singing in the part of a man. But anyway, this is what it is. And she will sing two arias, and then suddenly, number 8, recitative and trio, we listen again to who is the devil. C'est moi, Coppelius. So change the name. It's not anymore the same person. It's Coppelius. Doucement, prenons garde. Pam, pam. Quelqu'un? Bam. Very schizophrenic orchestration. Anyway, he goes inside. He speaks with Niklaus. There is a terzetto, very beautiful. And then there is this famous terzetto who is Je des yeux de Béziers. This guy is a person who is selling the possibility, selling some particular glasses with which you can change, you can see what you want. You know? So magic, of course, is very gothic, but magic, you know? It's like Frankenstein Jr. or Willy Wonka in La Fabrique du Chocolat. I don't know how it's called in English. Willy Wonka, in Lithuanian, I don't know, but I mean, it's this word which is like Alice in the Wonderland. So, a person who arrives and sells you an object that if you wear, you can see what you want. Tac. So, of course, Hofmann immediately wants this, no? So, there is this terzetto, which is absolutely fantastic, very simple, but very, very beautiful. Now, I can't listen this music, but it's super rhythmical, like every time is the music of Offenbach, and very contagious, like Rossini. You know, you go to watch Rossini, and then you walk in the tempo of Rossini, because it's so contagious that, I mean, you can't resist. Offenbach is the same. Then, step by step, there is the presentation of Olympia. I mean, after a big terzetto that now I don't want to let you listen, there is a wonderful recitativo. Maybe we can listen the recitativo version Giraud, scena number 6. Try to listen this music how 3, 4, 8. Morbleu, il était convenu. Mais un chimère. The duet between Spallanzani and the devil. And then again, it continues again, piano. You feel, no? It's also, in this case, quite schizophrenic, very funny, very super funny, where basically Spallanzani, Coppelius, so the father of the doll and the devil are making a deal. And it's very funny when okay, so it's done, okay, fantastic. At that point, Spallanzani proposed to everyone, there is another tempo di minuetto with the chorus, to introduce this daughter. And this very famous aria, one of the most famous aria of this opera, the aria de Olympia, soprano coloratura, which is a doll. And it's very funny because when she speaks, also later, there will be the moment of love between Hofmann and Olympia. Hofmann is saying beautiful phrase to Olympia. I love you, you are fantastic, oh my God, I can't resist. And she answered, oui, because she's a robot. And he doesn't understand. The music of Olympia is this, but before I think we need the translation.
Yes, turbūt reikėtų vertimo. Taip, tai mes dabar atkeliavom į Olimpijos veiksmą, kuris yra labai įdomus. Olimpija nėra gyvas žmogus, Olimpija yra robotas, Olimpija yra lėlė. Ir Palancanis yra tas lėlininkas, lėlių gamintojas ir Olimpija yra jo duktė. Palancanio duktė yra lėlė. Tai pradžioje mes girdime ir vieną ariją, tada Niklausas, tai yra mūzos dar vienas pavidalas, tai vėlgi, sako Sesto, galbūt vėl skandalingai bus sureaguota, nes vėl vyrą dainuos moteris ir panašiai. Ir tada dar atsiranda veikėjas, atkeliauja Kopelijus, naujas velnio pavidalas. Ir pardavinėja tokius stebuklingus akinius, kurie mums leidžia matyti tai, ką norim. Ir aišku, Hofmanui tas labai patinka, Hofmanui tas, wow. Ir tada mes girdim tokį labai smagų ritmišką tercetą, kurio nepasiklausėm. Ir tada Palansanis sudaro tokį paktą su Kopelijum, su velniu. Ir tada, tai ką mes girdėjom, buvo įžanga į Olimpijos prisistatymą, o Olimpijos arija yra viena žymiausių visoje operoje. Ir yra labai linksma, kai Hofmanas dainuoja apie savo meilę Olimpijai, kokia ji nuostabi, gražiai ir taip toliau. Olimpija atsako, ui, taip, nes ji yra robotas, ji nėra žmogus.
So, now we're gonna listen a little bit of this music of Olympia, but just to finish the atto, very simply, he feels in love with the robot is just a robot, is controlled by somebody else. At the end, they dance a valser. This valser starts to be very slow at the beginning, and then this valser starts to be very vertical, because they can't stop, basically, because the robot, you can't stop unless you kill the robot. So, at the end, they fall down. There is Coppelius takes this doll, and at the very end, when there is a moment where you don't find anymore the doll, you see the doll broken. And so, I understand that he was loving a robot. He says, un automate. No, in the very finale, like to say, I can't believe I was in love with a robot. So this story is very operetta style. It's the atto more Offenbachian, I would say. The aria of Olympia. Let's do it a little bit faster, yeah? Very robotic, no? It's a robot. So Offenbach, genio, absolute genius, he decided to create a wonderful melody, very close to the popular melody that you could have listened in Paris from Organetto, no? Yep. A valser, which is contagious for everyone immediately. No, a valser is something that is familiar to everyone, that goes immediately. But he decided to cut this melody in order to give really this sense of robotic movement. This is what you will listen. Then there is the other act, Antonia.
Maybe I will translate.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah.
Tiesiog užbaigiant Olimpijos veiksmą. Mes ką tik girdėjom fragmentą iš Olimpijos arijos.
You translate.
Yes, I will translate this. This is the robot. Tas robotiškas veiksmas. Ta muzika, kuri mums iš tikrųjų prakalba apie tai, kad dainuoja ne žmogus, dainuoja lėlė, dainuoja robotas, kuris neturi jausmų ir pačioje pabaigoje šio veiksmo iš tikrųjų Hofmanas supranta, nes randa sulūžusią lėlę, kad aš buvau įsimylėjęs robotą, aš buvau įsimylėjęs lėlę. Tai iš tikrųjų, kaip sako Sesto, šis veiksmas yra toks offenbachiškiausias, jis yra toks labai operetinis ir ta melodija, kurią mes girdim Olimpijos arijoje, ji labai artima toms populiarioms melodijoms, kurias buvo galima girdėti to meto Paryžiuje ir dar valsas, kuris yra pažįstamas visiems ir iš karto įtraukia ir yra toks labai raiškus.
Then there is the third act, which is Antonia, is probably the most true. There is this Antonia, this lady, soprano, very sick. She lost her mother, who was singing with a wonderful voice, and she's living together with her father, Crespel. and who is a baritone. And she can't sing because her father decided that she has not to sing. It's forbidden. Why? She thinks just because her mother died for the same problem. Actually, it's because she's very sick, so she has not to sing. Hofmann arrives in love, feels in love with this lady, and he starts to sing to her, and she starts to sing. At the end of the atto, now I want to be very, very too short, everything, but she will die because she sings. So basically, she knows what is interesting in this act is the fact that the characters are choosing. I know that if I sing and I love you, I will gonna die. But I do it, and I will die. Even if Crespel is very upset with Hofmann, and Crespel, the father, says to Hofmann, it's your fault. You are guilty for the death of my daughter. Actually, it's not true. The person who is the guilty person is Dr. Miracle, who is the devil, this time transformed in a doctor, who was the responsible also for the death of her mother. It's a beautiful act because there is a moment when this Dr. Miracle is evocating the presence of the voice of the mother, and you will see on stage that there is the mother voice coming. And they sing a wonderful terzetto with the voice of the mother that died, with Antonia still alive but almost very close to die, and with the Hofmann, and then there is the devil also. There are two terzetti in this atto. It's a very, very deep music, and the most important highlights are the beginning, the very opening of which is this very famous aria, La Fouille la Tourterelle. Right? You can also speak on the music, I think. Beautiful.
Maybe I translate, okay? Taigi mes dabar esam trečiajame veiksme. Antonija, dainininkė, sopranas. Jos mama taip pat buvo puikiai dainininkė, ji yra mirusi ir jos tėtis neleidžia Antonijai dainuoti, nes yra įsitikinęs, kad jeigu ji pradainuos, ji mirs kaip ir jos motina. Ir tada atvyksta Hofmanas, iš karto ją įsimyli, pradeda dainuoti apie meilę. Antonija taip pat dainuoja ir žinoma miršta. Bet ką pažymė maestro, iš tikrųjų labai yra svarbu pasirinkimo aspektas šiame veiksme. Nes Antonija, ji žino, kad jeigu ji dainuos, ji mirs, tačiau ji pasirenka, kad ji visgi dainuos, nepaisant to, kad žino, kad tai lems jos mirti. Ir jos tėvas, aišku, kaltina Hofmaną, kad jis yra kaltas, kad jis ją paskatino dainuoti, nors iš tikrųjų kaltas yra daktaras Miraklis, dar viena velnio reinkarnacija, kuri pasirodo šiame veiksme. Ir jis, tiesą sakant, yra kaltas ir dėl Antonijos motinos mirties. Ir šiame veiksme yra du labai gražūs tercetai. Viename jų mes girdim tarsi mirusios motinos balsą. Dar vis dar gyva Antonija ir Hofmaną. Yra dar vienas tercetas ir vienas svarbiausių ir vienas gražiausių epizodų yra tai, ką mes ką tik girdėjom. Tai yra pačios veiksmo pradžios fragmentas.
Basically, this act is so complex, theatrical and musically, that we would need 3 hours only to talk about the third act of the opera, because it's full of music. I mean, in this act, really, Offenbach was musically bulimic. Really, in order he put everything was possible. from his fantasy. It was like a river, no, exploding of fantasy of music. For example, we have the theme Tiens, c'est du chant d'amour is letter J. Shemta shishida shemt devini maybe of the duetto. Yeah, take your time. No, it's Shemta septini deshem. Okay, it's one of the theme, and then there is an aria also of Niklaus, beautiful, but now we have no time really to let you listen. This is when they decide to, when she start to really say, okay, I will be yours. Ensemble, together. Now sung only by Antonia, and then later you will listen for 15 minutes this music, because they will join, they continue to go inside, one inside the other, and then finally there is probably the most important in terms of tension moment of the opera, which is the terzetto in between Miracle, Hofmann and Crespel, where Offenbach really succeeds to bring the sound of the devil. The terzetto starts with these three simple chords, non-vibrato, so like very piece of ice, you know? And then cello from the bottom. And the devil is talking. Il faut que me connaisse. Le froid me pénètre, so I'm super scared. Le froid me pénètre, timpani. And it continues. Continues very long, beautiful. There is a moment a cappella, but there is the climax of the opera, which is in one music that probably you already know, which is letter F. Devini deshem tashtuani. À toi, Dieu me préserve d'écouter tes conseils misérables assassins dont il faudrait que chaque matin, chaque maman, which is beautiful music. Geniale, maggiore, major, and then it builds. This terzetto, which is absolutely fantastic. Of course, at the very end, Antonia, as every good opera heroine, dies, and of course, Hofmann is desperate, destroyed, because he feels that somehow he killed her. Because Crespel, the father, says, il est lui ou il est tu qui l'a tué. You killed her. So the first story is that he loves a doll, but the doll dies. And he didn't understand that it was a doll. The second is a real person, but couldn't sing, and throughout his love, she started to sing, and then she died because of him. The fourth act, Giulietta is in Venezia, and Hofmann is much more mature. Now we don't listen to the music, you already listened to the Barcarolle. But anyway, Hofmann is much more mature. And they understand that in this moment, sex can be possible even without love. In the other act, sex was the end, the natural end of his love. In this case, he can live a love story, love affair, even without love, just dating somebody. This lady Giulietta is a courtesan, and she's in love with more people. Schlemil and Pitichinaccio in Venezia. But not because she wants, but just because the devil, that here is called dappertutto, that in Italian it means everywhere. Dappertutto, it means everywhere, so wherever, so present everywhere, made something to her, like not poison, but like a game or something, that he manipulated her with this trick. I will possess with this diamond your soul. And you have to bring me Hofmann with the mirror to possess his imaging. So to be the owner of the imaging of somebody else, which is quite very actual. Think about Facebook. Think about Instagram. I mean, somebody else possess as the property or they manage our imaging. And if you don't trust that person can manage not in your interest, but against you. So in this case, somehow, this is a Facebook ante litteram, more than 100 years ago. At the end of that act, Hofmann becomes also a killer. The problem of Giulietta Atto is that there are a lot of possible finale. Because since this Atto was totally cut in the first premiere, and we recovered the materials step by step during the years, and we are still recovering, because probably in some theater in France, in some library, there is something more to discover. And this is the very interesting part of this opera. Anyway, the finale of the fourth act can be open. There are 3 possible finales. There is the finale where he kills Giulietta, but it was not the idea of Offenbach, but it was done several times in the history. There is the finale where he kills just Schlemil, and then he goes and is destroyed from Rialto Bridge. He sees this Giulietta on the gondola saying bye-bye, I go with Pitichinaccio and bye-bye. There is the finale, that is the one we do, where he kills both. Basically, he kills Schlemil and Pitichinaccio. It was the finale Offenbach wanted. So the metamorphosis of Hofmann from a very, how you say ingenuo, from a very silly soul, now like to say, okay, I love a doll, I feel in love with the doll, arrives to kill someone for love. In this case, it's not even love, it's just sex. So sense of possess, sense of, you really possess. It's very actual also, this. How many feminicides there are, how many men think that their women are not free, but they are property. How many? A lot. And that's a problem. Also, this is another drop of actuality. The opera finished. But before you translate this part, and then we'll go to the very end, and then I say you bye-bye.
Tai aš dar truputį sugrįšiu į trečią veiksmą ir Antonijos veiksmą, nes mes, pirmasis fragmentas, kurio klausėmės, tai buvo fragmentas, kai Antonija pradeda dainuoti Hofmanui, kad taip, aš būsiu tavo, ir mes jau pradedam nujausti, kad viskas baigsis blogai. Po to girdėjom fragmentą iš terceto, kurį maestro pavadino dramaturgiškai turbūt tokiu svarbiausiu visoje operoje, tam tikra kulminacija, tai tercetas, kurį dainuoja Hofmanas, Krespelis, Antonijos tėvas ir daktaras Miraklis. Krespelis kaltina Hofmaną, kad jis yra kaltas dėl jo dukters mirties, sako, tu ją nužudėjai, ar ne? Ir Hofmanas iš tikrųjų tą supranta. Ir tada mes atsiduriam 4. veiksme, mes atsiduriam Venecijoje ir trečioji moteris yra Giulietta. Ir kaip sako Sesto, iš tikrųjų čia Hofmanas jau yra pasikeitęs, jis jau yra brandesnis ir jis supranta, kad seksas gali egzistuoti ir be meilės. Jeigu kitose veiksmuose, seksas, tie fiziniai santykiai tarsi turėjo būti tam tikra meilės kulminacija, tai 4. veiksme jis jau mąsto iš tikrųjų priešingai. O Giulietta yra moteris, kuri myli daugiau nei vieną vyrą. Jie myli jų bent kelis. Bet ji ne pati dėl to kalta, taip yra dėl to, kad velnias iš tikrųjų ta blogio dvasia yra užgrobęs jos protą ir tas velnias prašo jos, kad ji duotų Hofmanui veidrodį ir tarsi užgrobtų jo veidą, užgrobtų jo paveikslą. Ir čia Sesto irgi brėžia tą paralelę su šiais laikais, su socialiniais tinklais, Facebook'u, Instagram'u, kai iš tikrųjų, irgi mūsų įvaizdį, mūsų veidus gali turėti kiti ir nebūtinai panaudoti geriems tikslams, gali panaudoti mūsų veidus prieš mus. Ir ketvirtajame veiksme Hofmanas tampa žudiku. Ir iš tikrųjų egzistuoja bent 3 galimos pabaigos ketvirtojo veiksmo. Tas yra labai įdomu, tai yra atvira pabaiga. Viena pabaiga yra, kai Hofmanas nužudo Džiuljetą. Tai nėra pabaiga, kokią sumastė pats Offenbachas, bet tokių variantų būta. Antras variantas, kai Hofmanas nužudo vieną iš jos kitų mylimųjų. Trečias variantas, kurį matysim čia, šiame teatre, kai nužudo abu. Taigi, bet kokiu atveju tai yra Hofmano transformacijos veiksmas, taigi irgi dramaturgiškai labai svarbus.
So basically, Giulietta is an instrument in the hand of the devil to attract Hofmann and to possess his imaging. Which it's fantastic because it tells immediately us the connection with the Dorian Gray. Of course, immediately Dorian Gray, Oscar Wilde, but also D'Annunzio, Il Piacere, our most important poet of the same period. Il Piacere, D'Annunzio, is another great novel. So it's a theme, is a topic that during that period was very important for the artist to explore the imaging, to fix the imaging. And when Giulietta says, yes, okay, I will follow your step, I will love you, you have to feel how Offenbach succeeds to create the love. This is the declaration of love. If you go to bar 3 of the duo number 2 is Ode que l'ivresse, which the translation, Odieu de que l'ivresse embrassait mon âme comme un concert devant ta voix m'a pénétré. Oh my God, how I'm inflamed for you, and my soul is absolutely burning of love for you, because like a sacred concert, your voice penetrating in myself. Da da di di da da. Da da da. Sembra se tu mon âme comme un concert de da 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 da. Pénétrer d'un feu doux et brûlant, d'en être dévoré, dans les miens. It's very high, and now we build the desperation. It's absolutely beautiful. It's the desperation of a man who wants really to... It's that typical love that maybe some of you, for sure, experienced. Everybody probably experienced at least once in their life. The love which is created by a sexual affair, sex affair, connection, physical connection, but that we know that is quite toxic. That can be dangerous. But human beings like to go sometimes to the bottom, to see the deepest part of ourselves in order to reborn. And this is probably what happens to him. Touch the very low moment, arriving to kill someone for jealousy, for sense of possess. And then understanding when, now he's just telling his story, but understanding that probably his love was for poetry. So in the last act, which is very short, I promise. Just, not now, but just in the opera, 15 minutes. So very close, it's just an epilogue, just the end. We come back to the tavern, to the pub, where we were at the very beginning. And so he says, this was my story to the students. So they continue to, we re-listen again the music of the drig, the beer and whatever. And then finally there is Stella, who is appearing. The preludio of this last act is the same music we already listened in the first act. It's a chorale with 4-horn solist. And then there is just this last act, which is nothing, there is nothing new in terms even of music and in terms of story. But it's important because for a lot of years was not performed.
Maybe I'll continue.
Absolutely.
Finish the fourth and then we will finish with the epilogue. Baigiant su ketvirtuoju veiksmu, Džiuljeta. Džiuljeta yra tarsi velnio įrankis siekiant užgrobti Hofmano paveikslą, Hofmano veidą, Hofmano sielą iš tikrųjų. Ir tas fragmentas, kurį mes girdėjom, tai yra iš tikrųjų nepaprastai dramatiškas, kai Hofmanas sako, gerai, aš būsiu tavo, bet iš tikrųjų jisai ateina nužudyti iš pavydo. Tai yra labai labai graži muzika, labai intensyvi. Ir jį mus atveda į tą paskutinį veiksmą. Iš tikrųjų, prieš jį jau Hofmanas supranta, kad iš tikrųjų turbūt tikroji jo meilė yra poezija, nes tas muzikinis pavyzdys, kurį mes girdėjom, jis, kaip Sestas sako, turbūt iliustruoja tą meilę, kokią gal ir visi kada nors esam patyrę, kuri yra, kyla iš tokio fizinio potraukio, iš seksualinio potraukio, kuris suprantam, kad yra šiaip toksiška, bet kartais mums reikia panerti į pačias giliausias savo paties gelmes, kad atgimtume. Tai iš tikrųjų tas muzikinis pavyzdys tą iliustruoja ir jis nuveda mus į tą epilogą, paskutinį veiksmą, labai trumpą veiksmą, kai vėl grįžta Hofmanas į taverną ir nieko ten naujo kaip ir nevyksta, ten yra ir muzikinė medžiaga, kurią jau girdėjom preliude ir dabar Sesto apie tą epilogą dar ir papasakos.
So there are a lot of possible finale for this opera. They did a lot of different finale with real music composed by Offenbach and fake music, false. And the finale that we will present here is the one that probably Offenbach wanted. Probably, we say probably because before I explain you that we are not sure about a lot of things. I'm sure that Offenbach, if Offenbach were alive at the premiere, he would have cut a lot of parts. Because, for example, the aria with the corno solista, with the French horn solo, in the original score is repeated 4 times in 2 different plays of the opera. And it's really too much to repeat twice the same. Twice it's already a lot. 3 times it's too much. 4 times it's already. So probably he would have cut by himself. He would have adjusted something. Also the finale, I feel that is sometimes, during these days I felt that is maybe incomplete. There is a drop in myself of doubt about the material that we have. But this is what we have, and this is what we will propose you. So basically, they come back to the tavern, they drink. We re-listen a lot of music. First of all, Hofmann explaining all the women he loved. So we will feel, he will say, when he say Olympia, pam, paparati, tatati, tarati, tatatata, we listen the music of the valser with Olympia. Olympia, brisé, horn, plim, plim, Antonia. We re-listen the inciso of the tema, morte, and then blah, 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 Giulietta. No, these notes are coming back just for you, for the audience, for us also to remember the story. And then he said, and then there is Kleinsack, if you want, I re-sing to you the aria of the beginning. Tan, 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 tan. Then here, there is an interruption. There is the friend, Niklaus, who arrived and said, Hofmann, Stella is arriving. Stella finally finished her performance of Don Giovanni's, finally in the tavern. he looks at her and it's like an apotheosis, because when, if you go bar Caturi of Denouement, number Videscent Penki A, okay, there is dun 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 dun, ta ti ta ta ti ta ta ti ta ta ti ro do ro ri ri. This is Stella, much more sexy than me singing, okay? Anyway, she sings this wonderful music, is absolutely, oh my God, how beautiful, how beautiful. The chorus interrupt all the things, and suddenly we find, ex abrupto, really, we find in the finale. And the finale is Caturi de Champions. Okay, yeah. This music that we already listened. You think it's finished? No. What happens? And then there is a small introduction to the apotheosis finale. This apotheosis, go. This apotheosis is the finale where the musa, and you will listen to the music now, is singing a wonderful phrase, like in Candide Bernstein when we perform Make Our Garden Grow, which is the moral at the end of the opera. And this musa is saying, you know, I'm your love. I'm the musa, I'm the poetry. Probably you have not to love anybody, because I was with you in this journey we did together. And I was as a Niklaus, as your friend. So we understand finally that this Niklaus, the best friend of Hofmann, is La Musa transformed like the devil in another character, just to protect him, like our angel that Catholic people thinks that is protecting us, no? And she sings this wonderful music just to say, you know, you are mine, and and I'm yours, and together we can live in love. So I'm the poetry, and I'm here for you. The music is this, and the chorus repeats, the soloist repeats, again she repeats, and at the end there is this big apotheosis of love for poetry. So what we saw is the stories of this man expressed by himself, with a lot of problem, facing the devil, facing the passion, facing the sex, facing the love, but at the end the real love of Hofmann is the poetry. And now we listen just the last phrase.
Taigi, labai trumpai apie paskutinį veiksmą, epilogą. Kaip Sesto Quatrini sako, yra toks jausmas, kad galbūt ir būtų šiek tiek pakeitęs jo Offenbachas. Yra tokio neužbaigtumo jausmo, bet čia teatre bus bandoma iš tikrųjų pristatyti tokią pabaigą, kokios galbūt Offenbachas tikėjosi. Tai paskutiniam veiksme, kaip ir minėta, Hofmanas grįžta į taverną ir yra tos reminiscencijos, muzikinės reminiscencijos, kurias girdėjom visų trijų buvusių mylimųjų - Olimpijos, Antonijos, Džiuljetos. Galiausiai grįžta ir Stela, baigusi dainuoti Don Juane, ar ne? Ir dabar ta muzika, kurią girdėjome, tai yra tam tikra kulminacija, apoteozė, finalas, pabaiga, kai Niklausas, visada buvęs šalia, pagaliau išsiduoda, kad jis iš tikrųjų yra ta mūza, poezijos mūza. Ir paaiškėja, kad iš tikrųjų turbūt ta tikroji Hofmano meilė ir yra poezija. Niklausas, tas geras draugas, visada buvo šalia, kad tarsi tas, angelas ant peties, kaip galbūt katalikai tiki. Ir kad iš tikrųjų, būtent poezija yra ta tikroji meilė. Tai visa šita žinia ir yra atnešama šios gražios muzikos fone.
So basically, it's impossible in 2 hours, 20 minutes to make a resume of an opera that is on stage since the first day was performed in the 1880. So it's 144 years that this opera, 43 years that this opera is performed. continuously, everywhere. But what is interesting, in different versions. And the version here in Vilnius is unique, like every performance of Hofmann. I would say like every opera performance, because opera probably is the only form of art which is different every night. Because even movie is beautiful, but the movie is fixed. You change your approach to that movie, but the movie doesn't change. The opera changes every night. It depends about the interpreter. It depends about the audience. If an audience is very hot, if an audience is very warm, if you feel the love behind you, you can really bring the magic to somebody. If the audience doesn't feel, you feel, and you do just a simple performance, which is absolutely correct and professional, but there is not that magic. This opera is an opera where the magic can be brought to you and you can bring to us. Of course, it's an opera that requires preparation, I think, before, because since the theme which are on the table and the ingredients in this recipe are so much and so complex, I think my suggestion is to study a little bit, to read something more if you are curious. If I convinced you tonight to come to the performance and to study a little bit of this performance, because it's not a simple opera. It's not an opera like Traviata where you can go just enjoy and listen to this wonderful music. You can be disoriented by the number of the characters who are involved and by this schizophrenic composition, because it's absolutely schizophrenic. But this lesson, which is not a lesson, let's say this conversation with you, it's useful because I think can clarify some of the big doubts that there are around, the mysteries that there are around this score, this masterpiece. I think it's a wonderful opera. There are a lot of things to watch, to listen, to enjoy, and a lot to think about. At least when I was studying, I thought about this. If it's more important a desire, or if it's more important something that we already have in our hand. If it's more important for me, my private life or music. If it's more important the physical love of the Platonic love, the philosophical love. How much the superstition of a religion can change in the approach to sex life, to psychology, and to go to watch ourselves very, very deeply. Sometimes we have a lot of masks, and theater is probably the most, it's the place where everything is false, but nothing is fake. So everything is false because, of course, we are doing something that is not reality, but is not fake because everything we do is reality. So I think this opera can help a lot our audience to reflect about some topics. Also, the stage direction is very provocative, and I think will move the consciousness. In good or in a bad way is not important. It's important that moves something, because culture, it exists for that. And nothing. I thank you, all of you, for the attention you gave to me, and I'm sorry that this is my last performance here in Lithuania, but I will try in the future to bring this kind of, let's say, educational meeting and cultural talks somewhere else also. And I really strongly hope, I tell you this to my colleagues here in Lithuania, conductors, managers, to continue to do this, because it's very important that we as artists, we take our mask, our tails, our frock in our dressing room, and as men of culture, we go in front of our audience, you are the person for which we live. We live for your applause, not only for money, and for your passion. So to see even 40 people, 50 people listening to me for 2 hours, 30 minutes, it means that my artistic direction won a good prize, that it's you. Thank you.
Labai trumpai, kalbėdamas apie Hofmano istoriją, Sesto sakė, kad iš tikrųjų labai sunku į 2 valandas ir 30 minučių sutalpinti visą tai, ką reikėtų pasakyti apie operą, kuri buvo scenoje nuo pat savo premjeros, nepaisant to, kad įgydama daugybę pavydalų. Dar sykį jis pakartojo, kad čia Lietuvos nacionalinėme operos ir baleto teatre mes matysim unikalią versiją, unikalią šio teatro versiją. Ir jisai teigia, kad iš tikrųjų prieš ateinant į šią operą labai svarbu yra šiek tiek ją pastudijuoti, ji nėra tokia paprasta kaip Traviata, kur ateini ir tiesiog klausaisi gražios muzikos. Čia yra sudėtingų charakterių, yra daug charakterių, yra tos šizofrenijos tam tikros, tačiau jo teigimu iš tikrųjų ši opera ir pats pastatymas, kuris bus iš tikrųjų provokatyvus, gali paskatinti pagalvoti labai nemažai apie svarbes mums temas ir kad ir į kurią pusę būsim provokuoti, į gerą ir blogą, tai yra svarbu, nes tai yra kultūros tikslas. Na ir Sesto paminėjo, kad jam gaila, kad tai yra paskutinis jo diriguojamas spektaklis čia Lietuvoje ir paskutinis toks pokalbis, tačiau jo galva tokie pokalbiai, tokie susitikimai su publika, dėl kurios meno žmonės ir gyvena, yra nepaprastai svarbus ir jis labai tikisi, kad ir kiti dirigentai čia ruošiantys spektaklius tęs šią tradicija, taigi Sesto Quatrini teigimu jam tai, kad jūs esate čia, susirinkote klausytis jo pasakojimo apie Hofmano istorijas 2,5 valandos yra pati didžiausia dovana. Ačiū.
She's amazing, fantastic. Grazie. You made my day.